and then not be able to recoup that later when they do build multi-story buildings or whatever else that would come in that would do something like that, or to need a new station. And to your point with the age restricted, you're making sure you're not impacting the school district, but it still impacts us. No matter what the rooftops are, they impact us.
Because you have call for service. And it's not, and I think, were you referencing like an assisted living earlier in the meeting?
We have an assisted living and 2 senior developments. We have one that's 65 and older apartments, another one that's 65 and older apartments, and then the assisted living with the memory care wing.
Okay.
So,
I think though what we did with Chief Myers and what we did with Oswego Fire Protection was that as things develop, and if, say there's something that comes in that you need special apparatus or something for, I asked the question, that is a TIF eligible expense, right? So there's solutions to that. And
But I think the problem is that it's not special equipment at this point, right? It's the fact that it's manpower, it's an ambulance,
Say,
it's
well,
a truck,
but-
it's not a specific apparatus for a
say
specific
something
use
comes
building.
in the manufacturing or something where they require some sort of specialized foam trailers or things like that. Those things, at least when because I asked those specific questions, those are covered under TIF eligible expenses. If you need a special what was it with I think it was the sugar domes.
Yeah,
Didn't
there's
they
some
need
foam.
a special ladder or something? And
Well, yeah, they had then they require a staircase or something be put in there, so they didn't
Yeah.
need the specialized equipment. But yeah, I mean, but the daily service to it, somebody cuts a finger off, there's a false alarm.
What'd you say your square mileage is?
36 square miles.
36.
we
'Cause this
will
is the
always
same.
ask those questions and ask you, hey, how does this affect you? Or is there something specialized that you need for this?
Yeah.
We'll always give you the opportunity to ask.
So here's the same point that I had made with the fire chief, is you have 36 square miles of property that you're in charge of. That's 23,000 acres. This property represents 1% of your land area. I know that there's hopefully going to be a decent amount of development on this, but a good chunk of that's going to be mining. A good chunk of that is, 50 or 60 acres of unbuildable, 54 acres of unbuildable land. So I acknowledge there will be growing pains, but I think adding that 1% or taking away revenue that you would get from that 1% would be a concern for you, which is a concern for the Oswego Fire District and the Montgomery Fire District. But what I don't want to do is get in a position where we're trying to negotiate on the fly to add in an impact fee that we've never done before, ever, that would require the people who just left to put a brick on their property that gives money to the fire district so that they can do what? Buy additional trucks to only service this area? No, it's going to service the entire district, and it's going to be housed at their main station up there, because they don't currently have plans to build a station in Montgomery.
So we have had impact fees for Montgomery in the past. They are for the Foxmore and Fairfield subdivisions, but most of that is built out.
Okay.
So there's no more impact fees coming in.
Perfect. And I apologize, that predates
What is,
me, but
do you know how much does Foxmore Fairfield revenue
I'd have to-
consider in your budget?
I'd have to pull the numbers, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, but the other part of this is too, is kind of like your 401K. You invest now for the future. So not having that money coming in as that development grows and increases in value, then we don't get to grow that money ourselves. So that's how I look at it, is that we take the money and the revenues that we have now to plan for the future so that we can build more stations and more equipment.
And
things
if we
like
don't do the TIF, so we can mitigate some of this floodway and floodplain issues, the development doesn't happen, and you get 800 and some dollars forever, and you
Yeah.
don't have to service it at all. And we generate zero for our residents.
Well, and that's why my thing, I understand the process of the TIF and why it's needed. And this is probably the first one in my career that I've seen that's of value for the TIF district and for the development of this property because of the flooding and all that. But most of the TIF districts we've dealt with are not
Yeah.
blighted land. And really parcel 8 is not blighted land. I know the rest of it all affects that, but that's prime real estate. That's Route 30. That's what you guys are talking about with the Griffin Road, that little sliver that's Montgomery, owned by the village, is prime real estate. So I understand what the TIF is, but my thing is that the school districts all voted yes on this because it doesn't affect them.
Right.
They will never have a student out of this. I will have call volume out of this, no matter what goes in. So it's a little bit different, and I know we've worked on this at the state level to try to get rid of fire districts out of TIF districts. But there's got to be some way that I recoup those costs, whether it be impact fees or whatever else. Because if I can get those things now, that will help me to be able to provide better service down here and actually to be able to invest to make sure that we're ready for that.
We have an open parcel in front of Wall 15, right, that could be utilized for, I recall years back that that area in front of Wall 15 out by the police department was set aside for, well, I thought for public works. Originally, we were going to set aside for public works, but now we still own that parcel, and
I think we probably have.
Yeah, I know there was a parcel years ago that was set aside for us. I'm not sure which one.
yeah,
But it's
because I know we
not
talked about
in our
using it for
name, so-
public works. I mean,
All right, if we're going to get into this, let's get into this. As I understand, there was a parcel that was set aside. It was offered to Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. Sugar Grove Fire Protection District turned it down because they didn't want a fire station on the edge of their district. I represent, along with all of these people here, we represent about 22,000 people. Of those people, some of those live on the north side of Route 30. I've heard from numerous residents on the north side of Route 30 that the response times from Sugar Grove Fire Protection District are not adequate. And I wasn't going to bring this up until you brought that up. There are residents on the north side of 30 that have asked me and had conversations with me, and Steve, what can we do to get a better response time? And they're talking about trying to de-annex from Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. How do you solve that? You're coming to us and you're asking for money as we develop this, but the residents that live on the north side of Route 30 are already telling us that the response times are inadequate. How do you fix that?
Well, we look at the call volume. So 120 calls a year to that neighborhood versus 500 calls a year in the center of my district versus 300 to 400 on the north end of my district. So it's, like I said, it's a crapshoot of day of the week, time of the day. Because some day it's my higher call volumes to the north, my longer response times to the south.
But if there's a heart attack on the north and a heart attack on the south, you've got to be able to respond to both of them.
Which is why we provide auto aid. We ran over 10 calls today, and we had mutual aid auto aid to most of those calls. And we had adequate response times to those calls from our own personnel, but then also had to come in.
How does, just a question to clarify, how does auto aid work? Is there a stipend paid to the district that covers the call? Like,
No,
because if you get the revenue,
no, the only revenue out of that would be if it was an ambulance call and a transport, whoever transports charges their ambulance fees. Same as we go to a neighboring department of their own. But fire trucks don't cost anything as far as response. They cost a lot.
Do you guys provide auto aid to others?
Yes. Yep.
Cool. And I don't know, I'm not obviously in.
And I welcome you guys. I know I don't want to take up the rest of your meeting, but I welcome every one of you to come up to my fire station, see what we have going on. I've got maps for the last 3 years of all of our response areas and where the call volumes are. I struggle with this every day as far as staffing, because, you know, everybody wants more staffing. There's days that we run no calls, and there's days like today where we weren't in the house for more than an hour.
Right.
So, and now they haven't done anything for the last couple, but, so it's one of those that we're always looking at those type of things, and that's why we always make sure that our budget is good and we have money coming in the where it needs to come in, and then we also save it where we can. We always move money to the capital. The last 2 years, we've moved a significant amount of money to capital to make sure that we're available for another station, but stations aren't what they were used to be either, because our station was $3 million 17 years ago. A station half that size will be 10 million. So it's not that we're not looking at, we're always looking at those type of things and our response times down here. And that's why we have the auto aid for either with Oswego or Bristol County or even Montgomery, depending on the geographical area. So we always make sure the citizens come first.
So if, just to have thought this through, if there were impact fees and it was a relatively nominal amount, what would you use the money for?
Well, the agreement that's in place now says it has to benefit the citizens of Montgomery. Loosely, that can be used as for a station or for more equipment. So another ambulance, because like I said, we have to replace those on a 10 to 15-year basis, depending on the call volume and the runs that it gets, or another fire engine, things like that. So it's always, like I said, we always move money to capital, and that capital money is earmarked for buildings, equipment, whether it be fire trucks, air packs, all those different things, to make sure that we're keeping up with the way it's going.
Okay.
So impact fees are just one more revenue to stack in the stockpile and use it when we need it.
Got it.
So
But it just goes into the pot.
it's
It's not like you're
allocated,
gonna build a station down in Montgomery. It's going to go into the pot. and
it goes in
you're
the
gonna-
pot, it gets invested, we get,
And you get 500
revenue.
calls in Sugar Grove, so they're gonna get the bulk of that money versus.
well, and that's why we're not building another station, because that's the perfect spot for the 36 square miles, is that one right there. Now, things like this development with the all cut coming through in Griffin, I know that in 2007, 2008, when that property was offered up, it was, we didn't want it on the south border of our district because we had no access out. Orchard and 30 was still a stop sign, you know, so, or not a stop sign, a stoplight, but it was a, 2-lane road. So it wasn't conducive for us to get back to our north end of our district, because obviously, if it's a fire, we need more than one piece of equipment to go to that fire. So we want to, if we have another station, whether it be north or south, it's got to come to the center for another fire or another call.
Do
So,
fire districts ever give up a part, like again, I don't know how those maps get drawn.
Yeah.
But does a district ever look at something and say, you know what, this just doesn't fit us? It's just too far away from where we're centrally located?
no, we're not,
Can
we're
we-
not abnormal. So I'm 36 square miles, Big Rock's 36 square miles, Caneville's 36 square miles, Hinckley's 36 square miles, and then I think Elburn's like 150. So it depends on the township lines and where they're drawn. So we protect Sugar Grove Township is basically how those lines are. And Orchard, or when Aurora annexes, they take it with. So it's the difference between a municipality and a fire district.
As Montgomery continues to grow and knowing the boundary agreements as I do, does it make sense for Sugar Grove Fire Protection District to do a station out towards 47 and 30?
Oh, 47 and 30 at the south 30, bypass 30? Possibly. But then again, it's property. So now, because I have feelers out for anything that pops up in this whole south end area. So there was one property that popped up at Jericho and 47, because that would be a decent area to put up a station. But it's also where 47 is going to widen, and it would lose the entire frontage, and we'd lose the station. So we're always looking, like I said, if you guys know of property that's popping up that's up for sale, you know, we looked, there was a property on Jericho, west of Orchard years ago that we looked at that had a pole barn on it and a house. So again, we could make a temporary station and work out of that until we had the funds to build a full-on station. So we're planning. I mean, we're, just like your 35-year plan for development, we're looking at things like that. It just, our plan tends to shorten. I mean, we do a 10-year equipment replacement plan, and then now we're talking fire trucks that cost $1 million. I just bought one for $585,000. So plan for that.
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
Totally separate
How much land do you
question.
need?
4 acres is about what we're looking at for a satellite station. We actually have plans for a satellite station that we worked with an architect in 2008 before the market crash. So there's something on the books. We'd probably actually scale that back a little bit and do something a little bit different off of those plans, but there's stuff there. So if land came up, if the money was there and the call volume was there, we could pull the trigger fairly quickly, but that's a lot of ifs and all
Yeah.
that, so.
Totally separate question. Are you having long lead times on trucks?
We got lucky. We got it within a year. They're talking 2 to 3 on engines, 2 on ambulances right now. And squad cars and those are not in existence, so.
Go like you thought, did it?
No, it did. We've been in, what, 2.5 years now? We're still waiting on a 21.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Is there a lot of growth happening in Sugar Grove? Do you have many
Starting to come back
residential
up.
developments where you are seeing,
There's a 136 unit housing development on the north side off of Bliss that's in the works. I've just seen concept plans, nothing official yet. And then that corridor around Galena and 47 is starting to pick up too, so. So it's out there. Again, you have to have the right people to buy the property and want to develop it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for coming and speaking on the roadway.
Yes. All right, any other comments? Okay.
feels like a school board meeting?
I know, right? Only difference is we don't have like thousands of people watching. I used to sit and listen to your voice talking till 10 o'clock at night. Okay. So let's move on to items for discussion. The preliminary, actually, we're going to have this conversation on the UDO tonight.
I can make it real brief.
Do you want to make it okay, so yeah, do that.
So, as you know, we've had a UDO for a couple of years now, and we're having some growing pains. So we have some clarifications and things we need to adjust. I know you've seen several variances that have come before you regarding things. So we're trying to address those issues and make some revisions to clarify things both for petitioners and residents, as well as for my staff as they're implementing the UDO. So various changes regarding that. I think specifically some feedback I'm looking for from the village board is related to accessory dwelling units. I'm not sure what the board's thinking was as we adopted the ADU regulations. However, as they're written, it would not allow for an ADU above a detached garage, because it still is held by our standard height restrictions for accessory structures. So if the village was not trying to prohibit that from happening and would be okay with that happening on a residential lot, then we would need to address the height issue for accessory dwelling units if they are above a detached garage.
Such
So
as?
just want to know if that's what the board wants, cares. I can adjust accordingly if we want to
But
allow
what's the
that.
accessory? I don't have no idea what the accessory. Like a resident building an apartment on top of the
In-law suite above
garage?
your garage.
So like think a nanny suite or an in-law suite or a parent suite where you'd have a second dwelling unit house, small house, tiny house, where they're limited to like 900 square feet on your property. So the owner still has to live on the property, either in the accessory dwelling unit or in the principal structure. But as we have it written, if it's an accessory structure, it's limited to 15 feet in height, which means that it would have to be a separate structure on the lot. If it is an accessory structure, it couldn't be combined with, so to speak, or above an existing garage and provided that way. So just, we've had a couple of inquiries from some people in areas that do have a detached garage and have asked if they would be allowed to put an accessory dwelling unit above their garage. But however, feasibility of doing that is just not there, given this existing structure and the way it was and what our height restrictions are. So
think of this, if you go back to like the late 1980s, and you remember watching Growing Pains, and Kirk Cameron, when he graduated high school, he moved up above the garage. That's what this is.
Okay.
I've
so
wanted one of these ever since.
To go
this
to
is-
Matt's, to go to Mr. Bauman's generation, Happy Days, Fonzie lived above the garage.
Wow, that was
Who doesn't remember Happy Days?
Sonia.
What's happening?
I guess I'm just, I was thinking something a little bit different. This is strictly over the garage, or they'd have to build something separate with an actual foundation.
Correct.
I've just become acquainted with nanny pods, so we're not talking about something like that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Chief. Would we be changing the height for only when it's over a garage? Because that's what
Yes.
okay. So I don't want like the accessory dwelling thing to be 2 stories, you know?
Correct, so it would
Right.
only be addressing it in situations where the accessory dwelling unit was above a
current
garage.
structure.
Yes.
And accessory dwelling units is very prevalent now in zoning ordinances nationally even to try and increase density in certain areas, but also provide that next step for folks. I mean, it's a thing.
Are
So
you
I'm fine
looking
with
for us to make a decision on this tonight?
Just looking for some direction. If you're,
I'm kind of done. I can't make,
I
a
get-
dec- I- honestly, I can't make a
So-
decision on this.
So you're a maybe.
I can move forward. Are you okay with me moving forward with the other items, and then we can discuss ADUs further, and that would just be a separate public hearing discussion as
Well,
opposed to lumping it with the
No, you
cleanup
can lump it all
items?
in, because it all has to go to plan commission, right?
Right, we still have to have a public hearing.
Yeah,
It goes before
there's
the
a
plan commission,
process.
and then would come back to you.
So I think this discussion is helpful, whether you're for it or not. I mean, if anybody was like, if we were adamantly opposed to it, you could pull it out. but
Really, I
otherwise-
just wanted to make sure you weren't like adamantly
Yeah, I
opposed
think
to it.
Now-
the point is that we can post the public notice adequately to cover these sections, so you certainly, we just
So-
want to cover enough and make sure that we're not off base with anything right now, and then it'll all come back for you for final vote.
But
Question.
Is this expanding a current height limit that we have, or is this going to be a new piece of the ordinance entirely on this?
So we would be
Accessory
adding
dwelling.
specific regulations related to height for accessory dwelling units in those specific circumstances. So the 15-foot maximum would continue for everything else, and then specifically for this use, it would allow that additional height. I believe we were thinking 20 feet and kind of talking with architects and stuff that would be able to allow for that, for the headroom for there to be able to be an accessory dwelling unit above.
Are they currently permitted on these detached garages now in the village?
We do
Or
allow
this-
for accessory dwelling units, and they could be, but the practicality is that you wouldn't be able to do it, given
Because
our
of that
height
limitation.
restrictions.
You can't do
Gotcha.
it.
Doesn't say you can't, it's just in
All right.
application, you can't.
It's a playhouse for the little kids.
Can I ask you one question that's not related to this? Anybody got something else on ADUs? Go ahead.
Not related to that, but another item.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got one too.
Well,
Uh,
I got something related to this real
do it.
quick. So they have to be related to the person in the primary house? They can't rent this out to?
No.
This is-
There's
this-
nothing about relation, it's just that the actual property owner itself has to reside on the property, either in the accessory dwelling unit or in the principal residence.
So it could be turned into a rental property?
They could rent it,
basically.
yes.
But it's not like Berkshire Hathaway now leasing 2 properties on one
Yeah.
site.
Yeah, I know,
so-
but I'm just saying, yeah.
but- So you could rent out the shed above the garage
Right.
or the house, but you got to stay in one of them.
Right. Yeah, so how does that work with multifamily? I mean,
This is something that allows for slightly bit more density within our residential districts, and this is something that you adopted when you adopted the UDO, was to allow the accessory dwelling units in the residential districts. So again, it allows one, you only get one additional dwelling unit, you don't get multiple ones, and you can either have it attached to the house, like you could convert your basement or your garage or something into an accessory dwelling unit, or you could build an accessory building, an accessory dwelling unit, not attached to the house, within certain parameters. And again, it limits square footage, we have height restrictions, so you could have a second building on there that is one dwelling unit. But again, the way
And
the
would there
code,
be setback requirements with that too? If it's a separate
I
building?
believe that it still follows the same setback requirements as a garage would, so it's like 3 to 5 feet off property line.
Okay, But when you mentioned basement, now I'm getting a little, I don't know. I'm a little concerned about this because then are we going to be issuing permits for this? I mean, how would we even know if somebody, are we going to keep track of this? Is that something we need to keep track of? Do we need to issue permits for this?
I mean, as people are coming in for permits, we are reviewing them and determining whether or not it would be an accessory dwelling unit and what other triggers there are from a building code perspective that requires. But again, we have it written in the code and they are allowed, and so we would be looking at they meeting within those parameters. So is it meeting our maximum square footage, is it not exceeding our maximum square footage requirement? Are they planning on leasing this, renting this out? Are they still going to, are they already renting, because if it's an investment property and they're renting out the house to begin with, they don't get to have an accessory dwelling unit too. That wouldn't be allowed by code. So those are things that are all kind of part of the plan review process when a permit is submitted for a detail, if they were to do an accessory structure, if they were to be remodeling their house. So those are all things that are looked at.
Cool. Good conversation.
Thank you.
Quick question on the compact size for it looks like for parking spaces?
Yes.
Where would those compact sizes be allowed?
Anywhere. So if you're required to provide off-street parking, our code does allow you to, I believe it's limited to 20 or 25% of your parking spaces can be compact spaces.
Okay.
But we didn't have established what a minimum size for a compact
Compact, perfect.
would be.
This is like when you pull into the parking lot and there's this
There's a
half a
con-
spot
yeah.
by a light pole,
Yeah.
compact cars only.
I just
right?
thought you were
That's
trying to
what this
find places in town where I couldn't park my car at all.
Well, I mean, maybe.
But that's fine. All right. What do you got?
My very quick one is, I'm concerned about item 1, the posted signs notice. Posted signs notice of public hearings must be provided by the village is now the applicant. So are
We
we?
have been making the applicants do it. I did not realize that it was written in there that the village would do the signs. So we provide the wording for the signs, so we give them what needs to be on the sign, but they are responsible for having it made and posted on the property. And that would codify what we have been doing in practice.
Okay, so we provide that. That was.
We provide the
question.
language.
They put this up, public notice. So there's requirements for
Yes.
the size.
Required to take them down.
Technically, the applicant.
Mark Wolf?
Okay. Any other comments on that? I look forward to that process with Plan Commission. Okay. I'm going to skip over new or unfinished.
I'm good with that.
All right, future meetings you see there. We will adjourn into executive session to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body.
So moved.
What's that? With no action taken afterwards. All right, go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Underman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Doug? You have to vote.
Yes.
Give a yes. Trustee Dyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling. Yes.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.